Beyond the Waves is a HailHailMedia production. It's rated R and may not be appropriate for underage Tims. There's going to be sweary words, and there's going to be adult situations being discussed. If you're in the company of underage Tims, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you're in the company of Huns, point at them, laugh, and turn it up. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
Captain! Captain! Land ahoy!
Listen, do you want to chat about Celtic after the game and avoid the usual Scottish hacks? Then tune into the Beyond the Waves Celtic show on the HailHailMedia channel. I'm telling you, Graham, the Rev, the coach, they're there after every game to take your calls and talk you down from the ledge if need be. The guys are live after every single match, and you can catch them on www.Spreaker.com and then just search for HailHailMedia. So if you'd like some Celtic discussion that'll make you feel a bit Yankee Doodle Dandy, tune into Beyond the Waves radio show. Yankee Doodle.
The atmosphere when they hear us cheer as we sing the Celtic song.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
You think you're smart, but they know how to break your heart. They'll chew you up and spit you out, make you start again.
Welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson. 4-2. Today, away at Inverness. That's a little more like it, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes. Wasn't, expecting the most sparkling of performances, but definitely rounding into shape now, I commented on this on the Paradise Preview show this week, the middle of this week. And by the way, Josh Gaffney, the creator and the brains behind the Paradise Preview show, is going to be joining us a bit later for a big announcement. But, I had mentioned that, some of the shortcomings that we've had so far have been teething problems. Not so much fundamental issues, but, just waiting passes, when you notice a teammate under pressure, moving away from the ball to give them an option, I think we saw much more of that today, much sharper. I think Victor Wanyama coming back into the side really cannot be underemphasized. I mean, his presence, just being he was really missed, I think, on Wednesday. In spite of the result, I think that having him in the side as much as possible is absolutely vital. His ability to read the game for such a young player is truly extraordinary. And his ability to tackle as well. I mean, he just busts things up in the middle of the park. Another player, Philip Twardzik, absolutely phenomenal day today. But, really the man of the day was Tony Watt. We'll get into all that. But first, we got to introduce my man from Perth Amboy, New Jersey. It is the Rev. Hail, hail, Rev.
Hail, hail. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world. And, Rev, did you have the good fortune to watch the game today? What were some of your thoughts?
I did. I was up nice and early. It was on TV over here. Unfortunately, still the transmission quality is pretty piss poor. But, got to see it, got to stay in bed and watch. good game. Started off really strong. I wasn't expecting too much either. It was maybe a 1-0 win. Big Vic right there, just 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, putting that header in. That was beautiful. Not too many complaints really. We led up to, took the foot off the gas towards the end of the game. I mean, what can you expect with a 4-0 lead? That's, expected to happen, bringing in some youngsters.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many complaints. Tony Watt, there's really nothing to say. That second goal, I didn't think he was going to put in. I was just kind of expecting him to get up there. I'm like, nothing, not a slight against him, but just, he's young. He just ran all the way, up the pitch, but he gave that a nice little curve. That's something you do in FIFA. That move that he put, that whole progression of play leading up to that on the counterattack was just beautiful.
He was like a god walking amongst mere mortals.
Yeah, simply put, no, not too much bad to say, except the end of the game, but we can overlook that. The job was done by then, but that's it.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, we got some bad news on the early going before the game got going, actually, when we heard that Anthony Stokes is going to be out for 3 months. And to know that we're going to have a player that can stand in for him and partner with Gary Hooper, let's be honest, we're going to need two strikers firing on all cylinders. Now, we didn't see, I think, that the most crisp performance from Gary Hooper. Nonetheless, I think that he was much improved from, certainly what we saw on Wednesday, much more positive outlook looking towards, this past Tuesday. It's Tuesday and Wednesday. It's offsetting. It's confusing me. But it's this Wednesday coming up. He looked a lot sharper today than he did this past Tuesday, but not firing on all cylinders, I would say, just yet. I would love to see us sign another striker, but a striker of a different sort of mold, if you will, a target man, so that we can have some options there. And a target man, a striker with a bit of quality as well. We need to push Gary Hooper. I'm sure that Tony Watt and his presence is going to push Gary Hooper to try and up his game. I mean, he doesn't want to be outshone or outshined by, a 19-year-old kid, but a 19-year-old kid with loads of talent, loads of promise, no question about it. And it's just really exciting to see him get opportunities. He had the chance to start today and made full use of it. I mean, he's been subbed on in a couple of situations and has been impressive, most recently, the game against Ross County last week. He came on and really, just turned the game on its head. Obviously he wasn't responsible for the goal, but from the time that he was on, there was a different energy level and a different sense of urgency that you could tell, maybe from a different outlet up top, maybe from a different option. But nonetheless, he does have an effect on this team, and he's going to be vital going forward. No question about it. I'm glad to see it. We didn't see much of him in the preseason or in the early going of the season itself, but it looks like he's turned that right around for himself. Now, another player that really stood out to me, and this was especially great to see on the heels of the sale of Ki Sung Young. We're going to talk, relatively extensively about that today. But so much comment in the message boards and Twitter as well, where Ki was sold, and it's like, well, who are we going to have to replace him, because we don't have a creative player who has good vision, who's who's good with the ball at his feet, a good passer. I think we have our replacement for Ki, and it's Filip Twardzik. I mean, there were so many opportunities, so many situations today where, for instance, the goal that set up Tony Watt's goal that you described, I mean, just one-touch stuff from the outside of his foot that just puts it right into the path of Tony Watt. Absolutely superb. Some of his passing today was extraordinary. No question about it. I think he really ran the middle of the field there. Hopefully, he gets more opportunities, and we're going to be playing in Europe one way or another. Now, fingers crossed, we don't want to speak too soon or jinx ourselves or anything else like that. But we're going to need him one way or another to fill in, to put in good performances like this. I mean, just another confidence-building performance from one of the youngsters. I love seeing it. And I will say it again. I think Filip Twardzik is the replacement for Ki, except you can play Twardzik on a weekly basis, I think. His first instinct every time was to send the ball forward. He would get possession. He would retake possession, send the ball forward. Where I think the critique on Ki maybe had a bit too much of a tendency to make the sideways pass or even a backwards pass. Twardzik, he's always looking up the field. He's always looking up the park. His vision is excellent, and he partnered extremely well with Victor Wanyama today. Now, we saw some of the kids come on the late going. Obviously 4-0, and like you said, I think there was a slight element of taking our foot off the gas. Obviously, when you introduce Mohamed Bangura, it's going to be a slight drawback in terms of your options, but nonetheless, some defensive errors. Calvin Wilson, once again, he's displayed that when he has the ball at his feet, it's going to lead to trouble. It has the propensity to lead to trouble. His first touch was just absolutely atrocious and really set up Don Draper. That's just what I'll call him. I forget what his first name was, but I call him Don Draper. Don Draper, his first goal, it was just, Johnny on the spot, picks it up right there and put it away. There's, no other way you can describe it. What I thought was interesting was, 3-5-2 to start with. Once again, it seems as though, we were talking with Michael from Tic Tactic, fantastic site, one of my favorites. I was talking to him over the summer months, and I asked him, is the 3-5-2 going to be the baseline for Neil Lennon, going away from that lopsided 4-4-2 that he favored, for the past 18 months or so. It looks like that is the template that Neil Lennon's going to be building off of. And it was just interesting that, the 3-5-2 to start with was, seemingly handling things. We had all the possession. We were dangerous going forward. As soon as we dropped back to the 4-4-2, I think it was, Matthews was subbed off, Lustig slides over, Izzy slides back. Go to a 4-4-2, and we looked much less steady on the ball. Very interesting. Very interesting to see how Neil Lennon is going to interpret that and then apply going forward with substitutions and etc. But saw Joe Chalmers come on, not the Joe Chalmers from Houston Emerald CSC, and shout out to him as well. Great seeing him a couple of weeks ago. Joe Chalmers, 18 years old, came in as a substitute for Emilio Zagari. 18 years old, that's a tough task. What? And it looked like, he had some nervous moments, maybe was caught sleeping, for a second. I'd love to hear what the talk was to Joe Chalmers, before he came on the
You
pitch.
screw up just this much, you'll be flying a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong.
I hope that's not what they said to him, but nonetheless, that is a lot of responsibility to put on an 18-year-old's shoulders. Now, for the second goal especially, it looked like Patty McCourt had a bit of trouble trying to hand off Don Draper again. Don Draper, just running his way to the boardroom. It just seemed as though maybe Chalmers was ball watching just a bit, didn't pick up the man, and he was just sprung free. And that's essentially what's going to happen. Not like Emilio Zagari is the best in defense at left back, but again, a lot of responsibility to put on some of these young kids, and that begs the question. When do you? It's always great that we have so much talent. At Lennox Town, at the academy, and the development squad. It's always tricky though, as to when you introduce these players to the first team and how you sort of break them in to the full side, because obviously you don't want to expose a kid that's not quite ready yet mentally, but at the same token you don't want to hold them back too long. It's a tough one, and hopefully the performance today, we can draw on the positives for him, go forward, and he can continue to develop, because there's obviously promise there that can be advanced, and he's got a bright future, no question about it. Now, Rev, let's talk brass tacks here.
Right.
Mohamed Bangura, take it away.
Well, what do you want? What do you want to know? Anything? Everything?
I want a striker that can actually. He had at least 3 SIBO-worthy attempts on goal. What do we do with him? At this moment, I can't even think of a team that would take him on loan. What do we do?
It's a good question. For a split second, maybe about 5 minutes after he came in, I was thinking, I want to give everybody on the team a chance. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not gonna boo them and slag them. I want them to succeed when they're on the team. I want to stress that, but I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe we can do with him like we did with Sammy and put him on the wing or find another position. But 30 seconds after I came up with that thought, he gets pushed right off the ball, or he tries to not defend, but tries to go in for a tackle or something. I forget against who, and he just gets pushed away like he's 3 foot tall.
He's crap.
There's nothing we can do. I mean,
there's nothing else that can be said for it. We've given him the opportunity. I mean, when he comes on, he doesn't look like a football player. He just doesn't. I mean, he runs like Phoebe from Friends, when she's running through the park. It's just arms and legs flailing about all over the place. I mean, he had a couple of athletic moves, driving, but I just don't see it. Sometimes it's just a matter of a player, just sort of needs to. You can see there's a player there. They just need to find their confidence. They need to find their rhythm. They need to sort of feel their way into the side.
Maybe they're just not, the players with them. I'm not saying that he has personal issues, but there's just no chemistry with the type of play, with the manager's style. But I don't see anything that can really be reconciled here.
They bought the wrong guy. I mean, let's be honest. Henrik Larsson suggested Bangura from Sweden, and the thought process must have been, how many Banguras can there be in Sweden? Just get the Bangura guy, and we got the wrong one. There's an Ibrahim Bangura who's playing in Turkey right now, who's scoring goals for fun, and we got this guy, and we paid $2 million for him.
I was gonna say, this can't be the guy that Larson recommended, because an under 5 can see this guy doesn't have it.
Ugh. Awful.
But that's I know after I'm following the game on Twitter as well while watching, and after that shot that he had that went towards the corner flag, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what the official Twitter is going to say with this one. It just goes, 89th minute, Bangura shot wide. I'm like, that's really the best you can say.
Yeah, no question. Joining us now all the way from Slovakia. It is Snake Pliska. Snake, turn your sound down for us if you can.
Done it.
Perfect. Cheers, pal. What's the latest? What were your thoughts on the game today? I mean, we were just talking about Mohamed Bangura. We sold. Now let's shift gears for a second here and give me your thoughts on this as well. We sold Key for I believe it was $6.5 million. That can be ramped up to $8 million. Is that good business? And then also give us your thoughts on the game today.
Right. First of all, the Key thing, outstanding business. Outstanding because he never convinced everybody in the Celtic support he was going to be able to do it. And I liked Key as a player. I thought he was a footballer.
I did too.
You can't be a footballer in the SPL sometimes.
No, it's true.
Sometimes you just got to have a guy who is there to take the knocks and to move on. Sadly, that's the way it is.
Well, I mean, look at the proof of that today. I mean, with some of the challenges that Willie Collum would allow to take place. Key's a footballer. He wants to go and play football. He'll have the opportunity to do that at Swansea, especially with the type of football that they're setting out to play. But I think you hit it right on the head. In the SPL, it's just not conducive for him. And quite frankly, I'm happy for him because now I feel like he can advance on a much steeper trajectory.
I was enraged watching the game at times today. Not with the way Celtic played, but with what was allowed to happen on the park. They should have finished that game with 9 men.
No question.
No bloody question at all. Just that guy King, he should have been off the park in the first half.
I mean, how many times? Just repetitive. And two-footed challenges. I mean, they could make a scrapbook of two-footed challenges, and it's right in front of Willie Collum. I guess he doesn't see things unless he has his back turned.
Oh, yeah, of course. But in fairness to Willie Collum, I thought at the start of the game there was a terrible tackle, and he gave a free kick, and he booked the guy, and I thought, good. He's going to get on top of this crap right away. And Charlie Mulgrew hit the bar with a free kick. And I thought, no, Willie Collum's doing okay. This is only 15 minutes into the game. That's an early booking. That's good for the game. And then he proceeded to tell out all manner of crap to go on.
Right.
I thought it was disgusting. But at the end of the day, today, as far as the game went, that's the best Celtic have played in Inverness in any match I've watched.
I would agree. No question. And I was surprised. I don't know what you think, but I was surprised at how much space Inverness gave us in the middle of the park. I mean, they kept I mean, it was 15 minutes before they even had possession in our half of the park. I mean, it was just one-way football the entire time. They gave us space for the midfield, which I think really set up Philip Twardzik. I'm really positive and really excited about the future for that young man. What do you think of him?
I think he's brilliant. And I was watching the game today. It was on television here, and it was in a Czech television station. And obviously the commentary's in Czech. So I had the added bonus that I didn't have to listen to Andy Walker or Craig Burley or some dickhead like that.
Right.
So the boy Twardzik, his name is Twardzik, Filip Twardzik in Czech, and they were raving about him on the television.
Sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't speak Czech as an expert or anything like that, but they constantly were talking about him and how he's got so many players in the Celtic team in the midfield he's got to get past to get into the team, and they're talking about the way he passed the ball, and you just listen to the adjectives they're using, like a dobre or fantasticka. You're listening, and no, you guys don't speak Czech, but fantasticka is pretty translatable, yeah?
Sure, I can make that out.
Dobre means good, and dobrze is Czech. Dobrze, it's also a little bit Polish as well. The Slavic languages, I'm not 100% on all of them or anything. I don't speak any of them fluently, but I get a sense of it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I don't even speak English fluently, so I can totally identify.
But they were raving about the boy. They thought he was a top-class player in the game. I mean, the pass he played through to Tony Watt for the second goal.
Oh, superb.
It's the movement and the thought. And there was like times he would step over the ball and turn round and come back around and then move it on again. This boy has a talent, and he's been nurturing that talent for a few years in the reserves. And now that Ki Sung-young has been sold, and good luck to the boy, I hope he has the best career he can possibly have.
Agreed.
I hope he does well. But the way that Ki is now out of the team, this boy can fill the gap without any problem. We don't need to spend a lot of money to replace Ki.
No, I agree. I think that we have a capable suitor with Twardzik. I mean, I think that he fulfills that role. We saw it several times today, and I don't know if you picked up on this.
Graham, it's Twardzik.
Thank you very much, sir. Twardzik, Philip Twardzik.
Thank you.
Jeez, I'll tell you what. You and Paul Larkin, with the pronunciation, you're gonna have me up at night.
I'm joking.
I thought, but I loved the thing that I noticed and that I like to see, and in comparison to Ki, his first instinct is to look forward. Whereas I think the criticism on Ki very, very commonly was he'd make sideways or backward diagonal passes as his first instinct, rather than what we saw with Twardzik, finding the open man up the park. And I mean, he just picked out Tony Watt perfectly. That wasn't the only time. I mean, there were several incidents of that. The only one knock that I can, and this goes counter to what I was mentioning. Lovely one-touch stuff from Twardzik, but when he does stay in possession of the ball, it seems as though he might hold on to it just a bit too long. And that's something that I think as he gets more time and sort of feels his way into the first 11, that's something that he's going to learn and be able to communicate with his teammates and be able to adapt to. But, your thoughts there. I mean, I think that's something that we get bogged down on consistently. When the side just seems to be a bit stale, a bit anemic, we're just absent of ideas. There's far too many sideways and backward passes. Twardzik showed a lot of courage today, and utilizing some of that vision and some of that skill that he has, to find the open man down the field. What are your thoughts?
I just thought he looked like he played with his head up, which really, really impressed me. And I thought that this boy is looking to make inroads into the attacking third of the field, and he was looking to always find a man. He wasn't looking for the simple cross-field ball. I get sick to death of these midfield players who are only interested in the cross-field ball. I'm looking for a guy to pick the ball up in the midfield and be driving and be moving it so as that we're going towards the attack. That's just the way I've always felt about football.
Yeah, I agree. And
I thought the boy was good. I thought he faded a little bit towards the end of the game. But that is to be expected with young players. You cannot expect them always to be going and being on that level, everyone's going to be raving about Tony Watt because of the goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly felt at half-time Tvardzic was really pushing forward. He had that chance where it was neither a cross nor a shot, but he played it beyond the keeper and Tony Watt hit the side of the post in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
You remember? And I thought, come on, Philippe, just dink it round the guy, you know. But he couldn't do it. But the difference between him and Key is this. At the minute, Key was a much better established international football player who'd played at some high levels of football and who could score some absolutely brilliant goals.
Mm-hmm.
Philippe Tvardzic at the minute hasn't got quite to that level, but he's getting there. And I think that a lot of guys, when the Tvardzic twins were signed and when a lot of these younger guys were signed, were like, oh, why are we not putting money into the first team? Well, this is why we're not. Because 3-4 years later, boys like this are breaking through. And we are incredibly lucky, Neil Lennon, as a manager in this regard. He saw all these boys at close quarters. He knows what they can all do. And he's going to bring those boys through. And those boys are going to become the mainstay of the Celtic team for future. I was actually, believe it or not, I was watching the Celtic history video just recently, today in fact, and it struck me the number of players that were coming through and talking on the video, or the DVD rather, excuse me. Show my age a little bit. but I was watching the DVD and like, the number of boys who all came through the Celtic youth system. And we've been sadly lacking that for so long.
No question.
Because you look at guys of my age who were used to the conveyor belt of young guys coming through, and older guys, my father, no, not my father, he wasn't a Celtic supporter, but my grandfather, all these people watching the conveyor belt of young guys coming through and becoming first team football players at Celtic. I want that back, and I think it's going to come back.
Well, I think that's the model of the future with financial fair play on the horizon. Many other clubs who are late to this sort of protocol are really going to struggle to catch up. We're going to hit the ground running with that, and that's great to see. Snake, we're right up against it. We have a big launch coming up at 5:45, so we're sort of easing our way into that. But before we let you go, what are your thoughts going into Wednesday? Just general thoughts in terms of how we need to set up and what our mindset needs to be, and then give us a prediction
for
Wednesday, Helsingborgs.
Right. Given that Joe Ledley and Kyle are not going to be there, we have to play the best possible team we have. Obviously, it's going to be Forster in goal. I think Matthews right back, probably Kelvin Wilson or Rogna, depending on who's fit, with Charlie. And left back Izzy, I think that picks itself. Midfield, James Forrest, Scott Brown, Victor Wanyama, Chris Commons and Samaras as the five across the middle, and Hooper up front, with the bench, with Tony Watt, Tvardzic and these other players.
I agree completely. And I think that it's a good outlet. I mean, fingers crossed we can put the game away early. I mean, I think the early goal is going to be absolutely vital. If we can score the early goal, it really puts the tie out of reach. And we need to make sure that we minimize the mental mistakes and the defensive errors. Like we saw towards the end of the game today, we need to cut that out, keep it tight at the back. Hate using that cliche, but just what's on the top of my mind right now. If we can do that and we can manage to cut this Helsingborg side open, which, looking at the statistics, they are absolutely dreadful away from home. Now, looking at the statistics, they're actually quite good at home. So, hopefully the statistics don't get flopped on their head again this time. I have full confidence that we will, and we'll get into the Champions League proper with the group stages. Fingers crossed, and we'll get the financial windfall that comes from that. But, Richard, thank you so much for calling us. We're going to let you go, but hopefully we can call on you again, as we get into European football and see how the side progresses.
I'll be back.
Cheers, pal.
Someone once said.
Cheers, pal.
No problem. And listen, boys, you have a wonderful time this year. And Graham, it's great to speak to you again. I hope you're well.
Yep, all the best, pal. We'll speak to you soon. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
The lovely and reputable Snake Plissken. You can find him on CQN. Fantastic stuff. Always full of good content if you're on CQN. I'm going to take a quick break here. We're going to follow on with our series, The Fun Facts, brought to you by your friend and ours, the green and white writer, Paul Larkin. And by the way, I just want to remind you, you can go to lovestreet86.com and pick up a copy. There's several copies left, so please, if you haven't done so already, go to lovestreet86.com. Albert, Doogie, and Wim. It's going to be on sale until September 3rd. He's going to have an absolutely phenomenal book launch for that. I wish I could go, but I'll be there in spirit, and hopefully I'll be heading to Scotland very soon. Negotiations are going well. They're progressing, but here's some fun facts, and we'll be right back with you, and we'll talk about the launch of the new website.
Hello, and welcome to another Fun Facts from Paradise. As we bask in the majestic performance we just seen at Inverness, did you know that on Monday it's the 12th anniversary of another game where an opposition scored 2 goals? That was when Celtic put 6 into the Rangers net on August 27th, 2000. What a day that was.
Fantastic stuff there from Paul, reminding us of a wonderful day in Celtic history. So all the best to Paul and his book launch. It sounds like the book sales are going quite well, so long may that last. And he's got a new book coming out very, very soon that I am fortunate enough and honored enough to be part of. So look forward to that. That's By Any Means Necessary, a journey with Celtic Bandpots, which the Rev is definitely a member of. You're a Bandpot, right? I've
been told this, and I'm going to play ignorant American and assume that's a good thing, right?
Hey man, what's a Bandpot? Is that like a stovepot? Because I'm a little hot-headed. I got a little criticism for being a Yank this week. That was interesting. What's your take on that?
I don't want to go there.
Karate Man rules on the inside.
That's right. Yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, I've beat the drum, and people call it anti-Lawwell. I'm not anti-Lawwell, with the comments that I've made on Twitter. I'm pro-Celtic, and the person who is holding the purse strings is Peter Lawwell. And my criticism of him is not personal. It's not anti-anything. It's pro-Celtic. It's pro the advancement of Celtic. We have an opportunity now. We're on the cusp of qualifying for Champions League. Yes, I know we're not in the Champions League just yet. We've just gotten $6.5 million for Key. This debt idea, that somehow we're just buried in debt and we're gonna wind up just like Sevco if we don't cut back our spending. I mean, it's absolutely it's frustrating, because there's not even an ounce of truth in it. I feel like there's loads of people who are just satisfied with qualifying for the group stages, and that's it. Oh, look at all the money we have. The money is worthless unless we do something with it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not asking for us to go into $135 million in debt, and put a bid in for for Messi, and just completely an investment of $5 million in a bona fide quality center half. We have our eye on a center half right now that I'm a big fan of, Ambrose of I think it's Maccabi Haifa or Maccabi Tel Aviv. What are the Israeli teams? At any rate, ball playing center half, very good in recovery, nice pace. I would equate it almost to like a Sammy speed down the flank in recovery. A decent first step, but when they get up to full speed, it's like, whew. We saw that on Wednesday against Helsingborgs. Sammy had an open a break, if you will, and then put it wide. But it was impressive to watch him. You get Sammy into open space, and it is remarkable. It's very impressive. But this fella Ambrose, I really hope that we can table a bid. It doesn't seem as though it's going to cost that much to do it. We'll talk a little bit about that going forward, but. As I mentioned before, at 5:45, we are going to launch the new HailHailMedia.com. It's we've had the website for a time, I guess maybe about a month and a half, and our very own Josh Gaffney has been working feverishly to just redevelop it, I guess, if you will. I mean, just really inject a lot of content into it, a lot of ease of use. I'm really excited about it. The first couple of looks that I've had at it have been extraordinary. And I think that, the listeners to all the shows are really going to be delighted with, the resource that we're going to have here. It's going to contain, the Lost Boys blogs, the Carluke Shamrock blogs, Rebel Podcast, obviously, all of the team, if you will. We have 90 Minute Cynic that's just joined us, as well as the Green Room. So fantastic stuff there. So Josh is going to be joining us here in a couple minutes. Let's in the interim, let's talk about Helsingborg. The game on, well, it was this past Tuesday. I keep saying it's Wednesday. The game coming up is on Wednesday, but this past Tuesday, Rev, did you have an opportunity to see the game? What were your impressions? I mean, obviously we had the quick goal, which is totally unlike Celtic, and then it seemed as though we took our foot off the gas, for an extended period. It looked like, there were some extremely shaky moments. What were your thoughts?
Pretty much more or less what I expected. I didn't think they were actually going to be too much trouble for us. I also didn't think it was going to be a cakewalk. But I was pleased and confident with the result, and I think we can take it to them again. The one thing I do remember that I take away from the game was they played pretty cheaply, pretty dirty, and this is the club that Henrik Larsson came from, and it's like,
uh-oh.
You got me?
We lost you. I think you were just about to make the point about, that this is a club that Henrik Larsson came from, but
sorry. Okay. I said, this is the team that Larson came from, and how can such a classy player come from such a cheap team?
Yeah.
Like, going in, dirty tackles, and I mean, nothing too over the top, and like kind of like what we saw today. But I was taken aback a bit,
No, I agree. I saw the same thing that you were saying. There were some, late challenges, just, some weak, sneaky little stuff that you might expect to find from some of the, the SPL sides that we come up against. Fortunately, I thought the referee did a pretty decent job. We had the Portuguese referees, and they weren't putting up with any of it. I thought Samu was superb. Hopefully we're just holding him out of this game today. Against Inverness as a precaution. We're just going to save him because, I mean, what a contrast from a year ago where, I was very critical of Samaras, and I can't be more delighted that he's proven me wrong. He's made me into a mug. I cannot be more delighted because, he's really developed his game. He's really, just rediscovered his confidence out there on that left-hand side. He does have a tendency to drift in towards the center. With his back to goal, I just don't think that it's working. We saw that repeatedly. Hooper just did not look like himself. I mean, he was at least a yard off the pace. Looked like he's playing his way back into form and fitness based on the advancement that he had today. But that's going to be a tough one. Obviously Kyle going out. He's taken a lot of stick as of late. It's just there's a brooding sense of fickleness, with certain players. I mean, Kyle, yes, he's been out injured quite a bit, but I've heard him likened to like a Kevin Thompson type. He goes into challenges too rough and too aggressively, and that leads to repetitive injury. I don't want to take that aggressive streak out of him because essentially that's where his brilliance lies. He's an enforcer of sorts, but he's so good with the ball at his feet. He just makes those 360 spins. I mean, just without even thinking about it. And Joe Ledley, is I think the cog of our midfield. Especially on that left hand side, his vision is quite good, and he provides us that option on the ground, taking the ball from the defenders and bringing it up the park so that they don't have to hoof it. That's really going to be a big miss. We may be without him for, upwards of 2 to 3 weeks. It's nice to see Twardzek come in and put in a shift. And of course, Victor Wanyama, absolutely exceptional. The one thing I would watch out with regard to Wanyama, and we've seen that, in the Champions League, rightly or wrongly, he does have a tendency to pick up the sort of unnecessary yellow cards, if you will. So as long as we can limit that, what an exceptional player we have. But I believe the time has come I'm getting the signal. So we're going to start the countdown to the launch of the new website. So if you are in front of a browser, type in www.HailHailMedia.com, and the countdown starts now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everyone sat around in silence as the mainstream media did what everyone would accept. But now, HailHailMedia has raised the bar. It's gave the fans an option. But now, with a new website, we can push even harder to provide the best alternative to the mainstream media, specifically for Celtic fans. And now I will sit back and allow you to enjoy what is HailHailMedia.
Hello! Josh Gaffney, thanks for joining us. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail, good to be on.
Great to have you, pal. Listen, fantastic stuff with this website. I'm looking at it right now. It is extraordinary. Tell us a little bit about, the ideas that you've had in developing it, how much time you put into it. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for everything that you put in. Tell us about it. Give us some background.
Well, basically, Richard made the first version of the website, which, it was very good, and it really helped people, get some background on the show, find out, a little bit more about each individual podcast and, find out what the latest episodes is. But I really wanted to take that and expand upon it. So Harper asked me, what can you do with it? And basically, I just looked at the biggest podcasts and websites on the internet, many of them getting, millions of listens a month. And I've seen how they dealt with their fans. And a lot of them, are sort of the same setup as HailHailMedia. And really, I just tried to take some of the elements from them and merge it with Richard's website. And this is what I've come up with.
Fantastic. Now, tell us what the main differences are. What some of the features that the listeners can pick out and take advantage of going forward, and maybe some of the potential upgrades that we could have going forward as well.
Well, I wanted to try and bring it closer together with Spreaker. That was the first thing I tried to do, because the website really at first, it was just really a blank screen and with each show on it. And, you just clicked on the show and found out more information about it. But I wanted to sort of give it a more deep front page. As you can see, there's articles on it. That'll be, every single article on the site. So, if you, Graham, go on the site and make an article about Beyond the Waves, it'll be on the front page.
Fantastic.
So, I wanted to give some of the podcasters in HailHailMedia a platform to advertise their show and talk about their show, without doing it on their individual site.
Great stuff, Mel.
Yeah, for example, when you had the interviews with Phil McGilvin, to help you get that news out there and, give the fans just really a central hub of really to get information about what's happening with each individual podcast.
Great stuff. So I'm just sorry. I'm navigating around myself. I mean, you can see, you have the player there on the upper right. So, folks, if they, obviously it's an easier website for us to communicate and for folks to sort of navigate. You can bookmark it, HailHailMedia.com. You have the player up on the upper right. So, if you can't be bothered with going to Spreaker, it's always sitting there waiting for you. And each individual show has their own page. I'm just sort of navigating around. Ours looks fantastic. And then the graphics are phenomenal as well. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, you are, and I've said this, and I'm completely 100% honest with this. You are one of the most talented, people in the Celtic online media. So we are really fortunate to have you, on our team. And, in addition to the fantastic work that you do with that mug on Paradise Preview. I don't know how you deal with that, but, more power to you. So great stuff. We're getting tons of really positive feedback in from the chat room, from Twitter. And, it's just fantastic. Thank you again. So what did you think of the game today? 4-2, obviously got the result. Some nervous moments at the end, but all in all, pretty positive, no?
Yeah, basically, when I seen the goal go in the first few minutes, I was thinking, please don't let this be another Helsingborgs. But, today we really did what, I would have liked to see against Helsingborg, getting that early goal. We got the early goal, we were confident, we held the ball well, and, we were just spreading passes around. Obviously, Twardzik and Tony Watt had fantastic games, and we just really stepped up the tempo. And, I think it's just because they're natural progressing, or, getting a little bit more match sharp, and also bringing in some of the fringe players who really wanted to have a good game, Twardzik and Tony Watt, for example.
Yeah.
And, just letting some of the people who, were a little bit down in fitness and carrying little knocks take a seat.
No question. Now, another player that has had some, maybe, has picked up a bit of stick is Paddy McCourt. He got the start today, played a full game. What were your thoughts there? I mean, he did, get a lot of criticism towards the end, but I don't think he did, quite that bad. A lot of people are saying, I mean, obviously you hear the songs being sung, please don't sell McCourt and all of that, but, there is a flip side to it. He picks up, he has some detractors out there who think we should get shot at him, but, I think that he's a great player to have, especially as an impact sub for those games in November and December. The pitches get, just a bit more bumpy. Teams tend to pack the box. They sit back and just congest things. I don't think we have a player on our team who's as good with the ball at his feet, going through traffic like Paddy McCourt. We saw signs of that today. Obviously, he's not, exactly the sharpest right now. He's not overly polished because he just hasn't played a whole lot. But what were your thoughts on his performance today and his role in this side going forward?
Well, he's played in that role before, just sort of, a more sort of a playmaking role rather than a winger. And it does have its advantages because you don't really need as much pace for that role. But I definitely thought as the game went on, it just kind of fell behind a little bit, and Inverness was starting to find a lot more space in the middle. But one thing I'd like to say about the website that's just happened, for me at least anyway, is that it's crashed.
We crashed the website.
Oh wait, no, it's back online now. So basically, people have just flooded on.
Fantastic. I applaud all of the listeners. You have managed to crash the website. That is phenomenal. Josh, we need to get bigger servers. Fantastic. Is it back already?
It's back for me now, but I think it's just kind of floating about.
Listen, everybody log off the website for a little bit. Josh needs to go and, make his updates and his changes, because that's absolutely fantastic. Great stuff, pal. Lastly, looking, and obviously we're going to have, the game against Helsingborgs this upcoming Wednesday. After this result today, what are your thoughts going into that game? And are you feeling confident about it? There was a certain sense that I had towards the end of the game. Yes, we leaked a couple of cheap goals, but that gives Lenny the opportunity to sort of give the hairdryer treatment, if you will. You don't want the players to be confident, but not content. You want them to remain hungry. I think there was a sliver of positivity in that. Going into the game on Wednesday. I mean, it's the biggest game probably we've played in 4 years. What are your thoughts generally going into that? Are you confident? What do you expect?
Obviously, having the 2-0 advantage is quite good. But I definitely think we need to look out for conceding an early goal. But, definitely having the 2-0 advantage in the away leg. We're going to be coming to Paradise with a lot of confidence, and I just think we're going to be too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can definitely see us, putting this away early, and from there, it's going to be smooth sailing, and hopefully we can rest some of these players that have had a tough August. Let's be honest, we're just sort of ravaged right now with injuries and the like, and it's going to be an exciting fall no matter what, but we're positive going into Wednesday. Fingers crossed, we can get the good result and really just bring the energy back to Paradise once again. European Nights, buzzing for it. Can't wait. Josh, thanks so much for joining us, and just fantastic work with the site. Really appreciate it, and we managed to crash it already, which I would take as a huge positive. Huge pat on the back to you. And, hopefully we'll get that sorted and, so it won't crash anymore. Fantastic stuff.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. And with the website, I'm at full service of the fans of HailHailMedia.
Fantastic. We really appreciate you, Josh. Hail, hail, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Hail, hail.
Love a bit of Josh. And we're going to be coming to you with another Paradise preview. Looking forward to the game against Helsingborgs on Wednesday. Going to be, just an exciting time just to even watch. I believe it's going to be on Fox Soccer Plus, or Fox Soccer channel, the regular one.
Yeah, I think it's on the regular here
in the U.S. So I'm not quite sure what the status is in Canada, but I would imagine there would be something. But Rev, let's take it back. We got the $6.5 million for the sale of Key. We still haven't bought a player. What are your thoughts here? I mean, this is malpractice of the highest order, in my opinion. We're crying out for another striker. Anthony Stokes goes down. Yes, Tony Watt has a fantastic performance, but Gary Hooper is playing essentially half fit. He's not fully fit. We need a target man. We've needed a bona fide quality target man for the past couple of years, and we just haven't had it, as well as the center half. I mean, Lustig came in, he was decent, when it was a back three, but once it went to back to a 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1, I guess, we saw him get exposed a couple of times. We need some cover there. What are your thoughts? I mean, is Peter Lowell doing the right thing by waiting till the last minute? Should we be doing more, more early? And what are your thoughts there?
No, you're right. You said before, how by, waiting till the end, you take any sort of, buying power that you might have and just chuck it out the window and put it all in the hands of any team selling. Now, like you said, we don't have to go out and drop, $10 million on one player. We can get a couple players. We don't really need any first team starters. I mean, that'd be great to have someone who could just walk right in, but really we just need players for coverage. I mean, yeah, we need, another strong center back, and we need, a target man that's good with his head. I mean, who's doing our headers? It's Charlie Mulgrew, who's a defender / midfielder, and Victor Wanyama, who's a midfielder. So we need an actual striker who's someone who's always going to be, up by the goal to score these headers, and not just, maybe when we're taking corners or free kicks, score headers. So, we don't need to drop a whole lot of money, or really any at all. We can get someone on the free, hopefully.
Even a Bosman, yeah, absolutely.
So, but I mean, when's the transfer end? Next Friday?
Yeah, let me look at my calendar. That has Chris Commons on it. It's next Friday at midnight.
Right.
So that leaves us. If Peter's going to wait until the end of the game on Wednesday, then
yeah, that doesn't give us much time at all.
Thursday and Friday. Unless you're Harry Redknapp, that doesn't leave you a whole lot of time to work with, and I mean, it's just. Where are our priorities here? This is very indicative. Peter Lowell comes out June and July. Please buy, season books, and we need your support. Please buy merchandise. And yeah, we tried to, and that went all pear-shaped. If only to be saved by Paul Larkin himself. And thank you so much, Paul, for helping us out. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's your turn, and they're doing absolutely nothing. I mean, full credit to the players that we have now for busting a gut and and seeing this through. And Neil Lennon, I mean, the amount of stick that he's gotten, up until very recently, it's just been absolutely, it's it's I mean, it was unwarranted from the beginning. There's a lot of there's a lot of criticism that wasn't it wasn't warranted, and he's really proving his worth at this point. He's really establishing himself as a seasoned manager. That can overcome shortcomings such as injury. I mean, 10 injuries just now. That's more than weak inside. That's the walking wounded. Essentially, I've renamed Lennoxtown the Hurt Locker. I mean, the physio's table's the busiest place in town, and the side needs refreshing. No question about it.
That's pretty much where it comes down to, because it's not like our players are crap, not at all. We have very good players, but when they get hurt, we don't have anyone to replace them. Or when on the flip side, when they're not hurt, if they become complacent, we need someone, like you mentioned, like with Tony Watt, we need someone to kind of keep the first team motivated. And that's nothing, including Key. We've now lost, I believe, 12 players since last year. With him being the only one I think we've got money for, right?
Well, and don't forget, we've lost the wages. Yeah, and Key, so we did get a substantial fee for Key.
But I'm saying, like, even like, God forbid, we really got down far on the depth chart, and Efrain Juarez had to come in or something like that. We don't even have those options anymore. Like, where do we turn now? We've got Tony Watt, Gary Hooper, Bangura, and Daryl Murphy. Like, if we lose Gary Hooper, do we start, turn to another, under 19 player and start promoting them? Like, we don't have any options, and that's, we're not in a bad spot right now. Like, we do have a lot of injuries, but it could get worse, and we're kind of I think we're just kind of making it through. We're going through the motions, as it were, and all it takes is one or two major injuries at say striker, like Stokesy's out for 2 months. If Hooper goes down, we don't have anybody. Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, there's no sort of plan B at that point. Now, that sort of segues into another topic that I want to talk about right now. There was some criticism here and there about, why is Gary Hooper playing today when he's not fully fit, and we're going to need him on Wednesday, no question. Why is James Forrest playing? When we know we're going to go up to Inverness, and like Snake pointed out, I mean, we're not going to get any protection from the referees. They're going to go in with two-footed challenges, looking to hurt people. It's Terry Butcher, Diego Maradona, right up his ass. But why? Why would you play? Okay, Wanyama hasn't played in a bit of well, I guess it's been a couple of weeks, with the suspensions and everything, or he played at Russ County. Anyway, we're playing so much football, I can't keep track of it. But you want to get him some time, because he's going to be a key component of Wednesday's game. But why is Forrest playing? Why is Gary Hooper playing? Even Mulgrew obviously is an absolute fixture. He was wearing the captain's armband today. Great to see. Now, there's a couple of schools of thought there. You're putting those players in jeopardy. But on the same token, these players need to sort of play their way back into form. Not just fitness. Now, Gary Hooper may be carrying a knock. It's hard to say, but he definitely looks a yard off of the pace. If we rest him today and then we try and play him on Wednesday, how good is his form going to be? After playing a bit of the game last Tuesday, I can almost see Neil Lennon's intent, on why they're playing those players. Yes, there is the risk, that the player is going to pick up an injury and not be available on Wednesday. But at the same token, would you like, a more fit Gary Hooper, or a more rested Gary Hooper, I guess I could say, who's not quite as sharp? We've seen the results of that, and that's not going to be effective. I can see where he's coming from, where you want to get him some time. Hopefully, he can pick up a goal, pick up some confidence, and then go into Wednesday's game, full speed ahead. Same thing with James Forrest. James Forrest came in on the second half of last Tuesday's game against Helsingborgs and was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he really turned the game on its head, got the attention of loads of people, across Europe. That we're talking about, his skill and his technique. No question about it. So, do you want to sit those players out and just sort of let their form dip? I can see where Lenny's coming from. It's a tough one. That's why Neil Lennon, is the manager. It's full of tough choices. Where do you fall on that, Rev? I mean, would you rather just sort of rest them and risk them maybe coming out and not being quite as sharp as they need to be, or would you try and get them the time so that they can be sharp? Because we are going to need to be as polished as we can be on Wednesday. Make no mistake about it. This tie isn't over. What are your thoughts there?
I would side towards giving them rest, all things being equal. I mean, obviously, if someone needs a little bit more, like Forrest, like if he just needs like a little bit of a pick me up, a little bit just to kind of keep himself fresh, then yeah, do like today, like throw him in for the last 15, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. If someone's like Hooper, I don't know if I would have played him today. I mean, not like we really had any choices to replace him, but and especially, I mean, and the way that Inverness played him, I would have pulled him at halftime. I mean, just the way they were going into him, tackling him, flipping him over. If he breaks a leg or something and he's out, even if it's having a break, a sprain. If he's out for a week, Wednesday is the more important day.
Yeah.
So that's how I would have done it.
Yeah, and there's two sides to it. I mean, I can see where Lennon was coming from. The natural thing is wrap them in bubble wrap, and don't let them even move. We need them to be fully fit. It's a tough one. As I mentioned before, we saw Joe Chalmers come in and fill in at left back, substituting on for Izagiri. He had some moments where it was obvious this is an 18-year-old. He was caught sleeping. I mean, clearly for the second goal. Is this a bit too much too soon? For maybe some of the young kids. I mean, everybody and myself included, with good reason, is singing the praises of a lot of the kids coming through the academy system at Lennoxtown and what promise they show and let's bring them through rather than buying players. But that's a delicate dance, in terms of when you bring these kids on and how much is too much. Might this have been, too much to ask too soon in his career? Remember, he's only 18 years old. We're playing away to Inverness, and it's going to be a physical battle. What's your thought process there in terms of how we bring these kids through? It needs to be thoughtful, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right. It is pretty delicate. I mean, if this was a home game, if we were up 4-0 at home, absolutely. That's the perfect time to bring someone like that on. Mm-hmm. Away, that's a bit more tricky. I mean, you don't really have to worry about the fans getting on them too much because, you heard it was pretty much all, the Green Brigade and other, Celtic traveling support today, except for the goals. Which, by the way, I don't remember who tweeted it, but it was the best. After the first goal, it's like, oh, did a sheep of particular good stature walk through the stands or something like that after their fans started cheering. But no, that's rough to kind of bring them in and expect something. But if it was at home, same thing, last 10, 15 minutes, give him a run out, tell him, give him a little chat while he's waiting to come on. Just don't go too crazy. Try something to take the pressure off, but to give him some confidence where you've got 50,000 supporters on your side, 60,000 supporters on your side. Don't worry. I mean, I don't know. I don't give speeches, so I can't think. But something like that.
I mean, you're the Rev. You can give speeches. Fire them up. Fire up the troops. Get them motivated.
You screw up just this much, you'll be flying a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong.
I think that's pretty effective.
Yeah, that would scare the shit out of him, yeah.
Patty McCourt, another polarizing figure. Let me ask you this. I mean, we've talked about what he does on the pitch today. Quite frankly, I thought he had a decent game today. I don't think he was terrible. I think he had some good moments and showed a lot of, again with nauseating cliches, but I'm trying to think of a different word. But he got a lot of dig, which is not common. With Patty, but if he lost the ball, he would bust a gut to try and track back and get it. We saw one example of that, was down by the touchline and he worked his tail off to get the ball back, retain possession. That's the sort of fight that was missing last week. It's good to see from Patty McCourt. Like I said, I think that he has a utility, as a bench player, maybe late on in the season, we're going to have tough games, against, and especially away. The away ties to Motherwell, which he came on in last November and really turned the game around and got the 3 points for us when we really needed it. I believe we were 15 points down at the time. I think that he really rescued the 3 points for us in that particular game. Thinking back to a couple of years ago, home ties even, Kilmarnock, when, we had I'm talking about, Scotland had a absolutely horrific winter, frozen pitches, etc. The quality of the turf isn't the best. It's going to be bumpy. There's nobody better on the side that's as good in traffic. And when you have sides that you're going up against that are just going to pack the box, something's going to need to cut it open. He's that bit of something different from that standpoint. I think a target man would be a similar sort of dynamic, bringing an option on, something a bit different that can change the pace of the game, maybe a different look to try and cut open defenses. But it seems as though when Key was sold, there was two camps. There's camps that absolutely love Key, thinks he's the greatest, can't imagine why we sold him, especially going into Europe. There's another side that says, he's rubbish. All he does is backwards passes. He's horrible in the tackle. There's a sliver of truth in both. It's always going to be somewhere in the middle. But what I find odd and interesting, to sort of think about is, we saw it when Sammy was taking a lot of heat. Now we're seeing it with Key, when he's taking a lot of heat. The knee-jerk reaction is, well, Patty McCourt is absolute rubbish, and people sing songs for him. Why do you think Patty gets so much stick? And why is it that when one player gets stick, he's always the one that's picked out? Well, Patty, he's awful, and we should sell him. Why is that?
I couldn't even tell you. I honestly have no idea. I know why people like him, why there's that, that team Patty, that no matter what, he always kind of gets, not a pass, but, he's a lot of people's favorite player. Hey, I'm not going to lie, I own a Patty McCourt away kit from a couple years ago. He hasn't really done a whole lot lately, but he also hasn't played a whole lot lately. So to say, he hasn't scored a goal in a season and a half or whatever. Well, how many times has he even played? In that time. So that's, you have to look at the whole picture. I mean, I agree. He's he's someone that down the road and the meat of the season, we really kind of need. I would love for, and I mean this with any player, if there's a player who's, out of form, they're playing like crap, whatever, I don't care who they are, I would love for them to turn it around. If Bangor just all of a sudden starts scoring goals, I'm not going to say, I don't care, I don't want him playing, period, because I don't like him. No, if he's scoring goals, start him every game. I don't care. Absolutely. And it's like I always say, I mean, please prove me to be a mug. I would love nothing more. Right. So if Patty, somehow if he gets put in a different position, a different role, they start having him do, more different things like positioning, like say he starts playing like a central attacking role behind the two strikers, and feeding them the ball, maybe him doing runs and shots at goal himself, and he starts excelling that, then there you go. That should be a lock on his position, what he should do. But yeah, you have to give the guy a chance. Now, okay, if we go and he starts games regularly for the majority of the season and has not improved at all, then I guess you got to sub him, or maybe looking at selling him if he's ineffective. But as long as he has some positive effect on the game, then it should be a no-brainer as to why he's kept and to how he's played.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have my own theories. On and I think it's broken down into two prongs here. In terms of the targeting of McCourt, I think there's one element who only bases now, and I'm going to disprove this theory even instantly. But there is a contingent that doesn't equate a player's value, I guess, or a need to keep a player or rating of a player based on their entertainment value. I mean, and they don't understand the concept of people who like Patty McCourt because when he comes on, he does exciting things with the ball. It's fun to watch him. Like you said, I mean, it's even if he doesn't play every game, even if he doesn't really fit into each sort of tactical match, he does fun things with the ball. You never know what's going to happen when he gets the ball at his feet. It's a bit like Sammy, but a bit different. Patty's much better, again, navigating through traffic and finding tight spaces. Sammy finds open space and it's breathtaking. A bit difficult with that. But sometimes, when people see Patty and see him having the songs and having the fanfare and the kits like you mentioned, they don't understand. Well, here's a guy that never plays and he's only scored X amount of goals. Well, and I think it was Mark Cooper from Celtic Underground, who's down in South America. Fantastic chatting with him on Twitter. It's Mark O. Cooper, I believe, on Twitter. He's always got his finger on the pulse of South American football, which is a big interest of mine. There's so much value down there. I think Celtics should be looking there, but that's a different debate, different show maybe. But he mentioned, he did some of the math and combined, not bit by bit, but Patty has essentially played combined in the past couple of years 16 games. The number of minutes added up to equal 16 games, and in that time he scored. I believe that the metrics were 7 goals and 4 assists, which that's not bad. That's not bad at all. What it says is when he comes on, he does have an impact. It's spread out so few and far between that it's hard to remember. And when you have, sort of a generalized fickle mindset amongst some, it's hard to remember that. And out of sight, out of mind, they're rubbish, etc. I also think that there's a contingent that is sort of spiteful of him because he's Irish. And I say that because you see in the message boards and you see on Twitter repeatedly, well, if Key had red hair and he was Irish, people will love him. And if Sammy was Irish and he had red hair, people will never slag Sammy, which is absolute nonsense. You don't have Darren O'Day's Fenian Army. You don't have Daryl Murphy's Fenian Army. You don't have Anthony Stokes' Fenian Army. And in fact, Daryl Murphy gets more stick than maybe any other player, and he's Irish. So being Irish has absolutely nothing to do with it. When I see that, I almost cringe. I mean, yes, Patty has a marketable sort of personality, persona, image, if you will. But it's just an absolutely moot point. I think he's worthwhile keeping, especially considering the fact that he can't be on huge wages. And it's another option to have coming off the bench. I just think that yes, he's not the most sparkling player ever, but because the praise that he gets or the songs that he gets or the fanfare that he gets isn't congruent with the impact that he has on the team, I don't think that that's justified, in terms of the the sniping that he gets. I like him. I just like watching him play. It's exciting. It's interesting. And it was good to see him out there today. He did some fun things with the ball. Didn't have a huge impact on the game, but nonetheless, he didn't make any mistakes. I don't really think he necessarily put a foot wrong, but anyway, I think we did that to death. Some of the favorite players, I guess, that keep getting mentioned, amongst the Celtic support, Johnny Russell, is first off. Dynamic, I guess you could call him like a second striker, maybe an attacking midfielder. Let me know, whatever you know about him and based off of that, but I have my own opinion. Johnny Russell coming in from Dundee United, yes, he's a young player. A turn of pace, nice turn of pace, and is dynamic in front of the goal. But I don't necessarily think that's the type of striker that we necessarily need right now. We have Gary Hooper, who's a very similar sort of profile. We have Anthony Stokes, who's a very similar profile, and now Tony Watt. who is really, I mean, he's going to rip the door open and claim this second striker spot away from Anthony Stokes. Anthony Stokes is going to have to work pretty damn hard to get his spot back. Why would we need to go and buy Johnny Russell? Personally, I would prefer we got John Daly. He's got a bit more size. Yes, he's slow, and he's a bit more cumbersome, but that's not necessarily, we don't necessarily need somebody that's got blazing speed. He has a nose for goal. He knows how to score goals. And I think it would be a more prudent investment, use of our money, instead of just sort of stockpiling the same sort of striker over and over again and not really having a different kind of options. What are your thoughts there?
I really don't know much about Daly, so I can't really say, but I agree with your sentiment. What I was going to say, in my mind when I play manager myself, and I come up with a striking pair, my ideal thing is to have, say, like a tall, a tall guy that can head the ball and maybe have a little bit of, tall guy that can head the ball and he's target man, can do like the kind of the grunt work, if you will, and then his partner be the short, quick guy, really fast, maybe has some flair and put a lot of curve on the ball. So, if we have, kind of that, we don't really have that kind of a guy with Celtics so much, but more towards that second, quicker player with, with like Hooper and stuff, then so we need the opposite, the flip side. We need that taller, the guy that can just head the ball and do, shit like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I just think that at this point we need to diversify. Yes, we have that sort of front to goal striker that runs onto a ball or is just a clinical penalty box finisher. We have that covered. We don't really need anything in addition to. We're rumored with the Japanese player who's currently playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly for whoever's listening. Which I think, that would be fine. Yeah, it's a loan deal. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of loan deals. I like this business model of buying diamonds in the rough. The Kyals, the Ledleys, the Izaguirres obviously wouldn't buy Ledley, but he's here nonetheless, and I'm certainly glad for it. Even the Hooper. And we saw it with Kate. We tripled the price that we paid for him. That's good business. I think we need to continue that business model. Not try and get, these loan deals in here sort of glamour-wise, but, bring these young players with a lot of potential, develop them, and then send them on. Maybe one older head. I heard a name thrown out there that I think would be absolutely phenomenal, maybe for a year or two. That's Kevin Davies. I think he was previously with Bolton. I'm not quite sure where he is just now, but I think he's about 34 years old. But I think that he could put in a shift this season, fulfilling that exact purpose, that exact role. A bigger player who's full of courage and has the experience. And I think that would be absolutely vital and would be very worthwhile for a lot of these younger players. Because this is a young side, and it's, yes, we had some success in the Europa League last season, but the Champions League is an entirely different proposition altogether. So it's going to be interesting, the next week. I don't expect anything to happen until Wednesday night because Lowell has absolutely no idea what the hell he's doing, but hey, I don't have the stripes on my sleeve to make those sorts of calls. Because, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's gonna come down to the wire, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't get anybody. I'm expecting a Friday night, well, Friday afternoon for us, I guess. A statement where probably not even with a name. But just, we had our eye on, one or two players and, personal wages, negotiations broke down or, their parent club didn't, they started, changing their mind on what the transfer fee would be, or something, just lip service like that. If we get somebody, I'm not expecting a game changer. Like who do we bring in the winter window last year? We got
Lustig.
Bangura, Lustig.
Bangura was last summer.
Oh, he was last time? Okay.
Yeah. So we got Lustig and
Brozic.
Raibu Ibrahim.
Ibrahim, yeah, he was the other one. We haven't seen Ibrahim, really. Blackman, him too, he's played. Or no, he was a free, I think.
I think he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, he came in December as a free, that's right. And he, what's he done? He scored a known goal.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of what I'm expecting, more of the same of, unfortunately. I mean, I'd love to be proven wrong. I would love that.
Me too.
And I'll be the first to admit it and say, I was wrong and welcome player Y, but that's what I'm expecting. If anybody, it's going to be, a sub at best.
Yeah, I'm not positive on this at all, and it's just based on the precedent. I mean, we've seen this happen year after year, and it's puzzling to me in a certain way that Peter Lowell gets so much defense, and let's wait it out, let's give him a chance. We've given him chances over and over again to do what was necessary. We needed a target man last year. Neil Lennon goes and identifies Baba Diawara, who was available for the same money that Bangura was.
Mm-hmm.
We wound up with Bangura. Baba Diawara signs with Seville, and now is scoring goals in La Liga. I don't understand why I should have faith in him. Year after year, we needed Stephen Fletcher. We wound up with Willow Flood. Sorry, if I'm pissed off and you don't like it, I'm sorry.
I'm a karate man.
I'm pissed.
Karate man rules on the inside.
I'm pissed off. We have opportunities, to strengthen the side, to address weaknesses, and to advance the club in the Champions League in a debt-neutral way. In fact, it would be debt positive. Stephen Fletcher goes to Sunderland for $12 million, $15 million. Whew, man, we ducked one there. Thank God. Thank God we didn't invest the additional $500,000. Wind up with $12 million on the other side. I am pissed.
I'm a karate man.
So if you're listening in, we're going to keep the phone lines open here. We'll probably be on for a little while longer. Rev doesn't need to go sleepy, so we're here for you. Add us as a contact on Skype at Beyond the Waves, and you're sorted. So get in touch. Let us know what you thought. We're talking about the transfer window and the lack of activity. I'm pissed off, and it's a good time. It's a good time to get involved. Don't be scared, and just give me your opinion. I'm all ears.
I'm a karate man.
So, all right, Johnny Russell for me, I'd stay clear of. Another, well, Mark, we're just seeing in the chat room, loads of people in the chat room. Mark Guidi, who's a complete and utter dick, just announced that might be Paddy McCourt's last game at Celtic. Okay, I mean, whatever. But the fact that Mark Guidi mentioned it lets me know that it's quite likely that Paddy McCourt's here to stay, because that fool hasn't gotten one thing right so far. So I wouldn't take much credence in that statement or any other statement that prick says. Frank's getting in touch in the chat room. How Fletcher went for that kind of money is beyond me. It's beyond me as well. I can't argue. Another name that consistently gets mentioned is Jordan Rhodes. Now, we were talking to Paul Larkin last week, the green and white writer. He sung Jordan Rhodes' praises. He saw him at Easter Road for the Scotland team. I just don't see that as good business. I don't see that as following the business model that we've laid out here. It's estimated that he would command $6 to $8 million. That's not our price point. It's not our price point for one player, especially with the wages that are being offered to him from Premiership and Championship sides. $40,000 a week. We're not going to pay him $40,000 a week. That's just not going to happen. And I wouldn't pay any more than $2.5, maybe $3 million for one player at a time at this point. If we buy him for $8 million, we're not going to be able to recoup a lot of that, and that's simply down to the fact that English clubs, EPL, Championship, whatever, are not that there is a discount for a player because they came from Scotland. Look at Jelic. Jelic was scoring, however you want to term it or look at it. He was scoring goals for Rangers when he was fit for fun. And it was like, well, they, Everton is broke and they don't have the money to invest, so they had to go and look off of the scrap heap. Nikita Yelovich has been one of the best signings in the EPL, I think, value-wise, in years. For what they paid for him, he's had an immediate impact. But the fact of the matter is, if Yelovich came from an EPL side, they'd have to pay 5 times more than that. Easily. Well, no, I got my math wrong. I think they paid $5 million. So they would easily have to pay, I'd say, considering the impact that he's had, I'd say he's a £15 million player right now. Considering Fletcher just went for $12 million, Yelovich is easily equal to that. If he came from another English side, they'd have to pay it. But since he came from Scotland, and since the powers that be like negotiating contracts after they beat down their own product, there's a discount with it. So if we buy Jordan Rhodes at $8 million, we're not getting much more than that for him. Yes, I think he's a fantastic player. Yes, I think that he would absolutely run riot. Yes, I think that he would help Celtic. And if we did get him, I'd be thrilled with it. But from a business standpoint, I just don't think it makes sense. What do you think, Rev?
I'm gonna agree with you there. I mean, that's part of the game now. You have to, bring a business aspect into it.
Yeah, no question about it. Frank's just getting in touch. Hopefully he can call in here. Want to get so just some more thoughts here. I want to talk about the transfer window. This is a very important week for Celtic. Do we roll the dice? And by rolling the dice, I'm just asking for $3 million for a center half. Let's get a center half in. Steady the side. There's bargains to be had. There's value throughout continental Europe. Don't look in England. Forget it. I don't want English players. I want a technically gifted player. I mean, look at Victor Wanyama. He's from Africa. A name that I mentioned is Ambrose. I believe he's Nigerian and fantastic. If you haven't seen YouTube clips of him, look him up. Fantastic stuff. Ball playing center half, good with the ball at his feet. Seems as though he has very good composure. That's good business. I think we could get him for $1.5 million. I don't see what the holdup is.
America is ripe for the picking. I mean, if we're looking for just a substitute and not, a first team player to come right in and slot right in. I mean, was it Jeff Cameron just went to, I think, Sunderland for 2.5?
Was it Sunderland or Stoke?
I'm not sure now.
Well, he was rumored, and then I believe MLS nicked it, and I'm not sure. I don't know if he actually went or not.
Okay.
We'd have to confirm that. That would be a fantastic shout. Is that what they paid for Jeff Cameron?
That $2.5 million. So that's
like $20. Or that's 20 pounds. Yeah, for 20 pounds, we could have one of the best center halves in America. Peter Lawwell's got his thumb up his ass, looking for Japanese players.
I'm a karate man.
We're joined now by Frank from Maley's Boys. Frank, thanks for joining us, getting involved in this neurosis. How you doing, pal?
Yeah, not bad, mate. You?
Yeah, doing all right. Got Rev here with us, and we passed along the items that you had sent over as well, so we really appreciate that. What's your sense of the transfer market just now? In terms of our attitude. Should we be more aggressive at this point? Should we wait until Wednesday? Is this prudent business? I mean, it only leaves us with 2 days to go out and try and strengthen the side, which is not a position of leverage. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm generally somebody who's fairly cautious, but I have to admit that after going to Helsingborg and getting such a good result, I'd certainly be hoping maybe it doesn't look like they're going to sign anyone before Wednesday, but I'd certainly like to think that in the background they're lining things up, because realistically you should be looking now to be getting into the Champions League group stages. Obviously we're guaranteed European football, because even if the worst happened, you would end up in the Europa League, but after a result like that, you've got to be fairly confident that you're going to end up in the Champions League, and we don't need to bring in a lot of players, we don't need to spend a vast amount of money, but I think if for example, we didn't buy anyone, the vast majority of the support would be fairly unhappy with that. There's a difference between tactical spending for the future and reckless spending, and I think we need to look to maybe bring in 2 or 3, if it was me personally, maybe spend 3 or 4 million, but obviously I'm not the one in charge, so it's not really up to me.
No, I would agree absolutely 100%. Now, I've banged on about, a center half. The Rev just gave me some knowledge about, Jeff Cameron, one of the, I think, the upcoming talent. I mean, he's a converted midfielder that's gone back and played center half for the U.S. national team and has done quite well. I think it's an exceptional player. I think he'd do quite well in the SPL, given his sort of style of play, if you will. But I think a center half is absolutely necessary, and I just think that it's overdue for us to get a bona fide target man. What are your thoughts in terms of you mentioned tactical spending to sort of improve the side and fill gaps, fill missing gaps. Not just we have players injured right now, but we have scenarios and positions that aren't even filled when we're at full strength. What do you think? I mean, where do we need to spend this money in this next week?
Well, I think at the minute we all know we're a fairly young team. Lennon has done very well in bringing in players who are, either incredibly young and are only just beginning to come through, or players who are kind of around 19, 20 and stuff who've come through over the past few seasons and they've already added to their market value and have developed as footballers. I think personally I'd be looking to bring in a centre half. I think that's probably the player we need the most. I'm one of these people who likes Thomas Ronya. I think he's potentially a very good centre half. Yeah. But along with him and Charlie Mulgrew, Ronya's got a bit injury prone over his time here, so you can't rely on just having those two. I think we would benefit from one there, because Kelvin Wilson, it takes some players a season to really settle in and begin to show what they can do, and he might, and I hope he does. But going into the Champions League group stages, presuming that's where you're going to go, even in the Europa League group stages, the way he's been playing, it would worry me if we were having to play him. I think even against Helsingborg, the defence looked more than a bit shaky at times, and to be fair, large parts of that were actually Mulgrew, which is odd. But if we're going to be going up against the best teams in Europe, we need to strengthen the defence, and I'd like to see us bring somebody in who's fairly experienced. I'm not talking about somebody who's maybe going to cost you a lot of money or who's 30-year-old, but instead of bringing in somebody who's 19, bring in someone who's 24, 25, something like that if it was up to me. As for a striker, I think we need one personally. I've been raving about Tony Watt for months, before he even played for the senior team, just because I'd happened to see him in a couple of the kind of under-19s games and stuff, and he's a fantastic natural finisher, and I think we'll see more and more of him. But you can't expect to drop him, for example, into the Champions League and tell him, right, you need to go out and score. I'm not saying that he would be totally incapable of scoring at a high level, but people can't expect him to come on every time and score 2 or 3 goals, because he's young, and there are very few strikers in the world that can do that, even when they're at their peak. If you're asking me who do I think we should bring in, I don't really know, to be honest. I don't think we've really had a target man since Vennegoor at Hesselink.
No, we haven't. I agree.
But a lot of the people that have been linked with us aren't really target men. Whether it's the kind of reasonably realistic signings like, say, Johnny Russell, or even going up to the unrealistic, I'd still class it as fairly unrealistic, but Jordan Rhodes or something.
No, I think that's out of the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, if we signed Jordan Rhodes, I'd be absolutely delighted, but I've been saying for a good while, I'd be shocked, stunned and amazed, but I suppose anything can happen in football, but none of them have really been target men. And if you're asking me who I think we should bring in, I don't really know, to be honest. I'd have to hope and rely on our scouting system, which has been very good of late. But I just don't know. If I was being really picky, I'd maybe like another midfielder, but that's just pushing the boat out. The striker and the centre half are by far and away the most important additions in my book.
No question about it. I completely agree. In terms of the fact that we haven't had a bona fide target man since Big Jan, I would completely agree with that. Getting a shout in the chat room as well for Kevin Davies, who I mentioned a little while ago. I don't know what his sort of price point would be to bring him in, but I think that would be a good profile, not just, obviously for what he would offer, but he has the experience, obviously not an extensive Champions League sort of experience, but, you put him in the same room with some of these kids. I think there's a wealth of information, knowledge, poise, and experience that can really pay dividends. I would like to see that if the price was right. And again, as we keep specifying, we don't want to spend, $20 million and, just put ourselves in financial peril. But we want to have strategic spending that are going to address issues that we have just now through injury as well as just vacancy. And another point that you bring up is, the fact that we don't, you mentioned I don't really know. And quite frankly, I don't either myself. And I like it that way. Some of the best signings that we've had over these past few years, in fact, I would say all of the signings that we've had over the past few years that have come good, were like, they would announce and be like, who? That's who I want. I want somebody, who they do the signing and it's like, who? And then you look at the statistics. Okay, 6'2" striker, scored goals in, the Bulgarian Superliga or whatever, and you bring them in and you have a bit of experience. Just got a tweet from Davey Boy 10. I gotta point this out. He mentions, I disagree with you on the loan deal comments. Loan deals can work. Fraser Forster is a perfect example. That's a fair point. You look at the Fraser Forster situation, try before you buy is what he points out. I mean, that's a good example. Fraser Forster has been an excellent piece of business that came on the heels of 2 successive loan deals. I think a loan deal of a more experienced player that maybe, could fill the vacancy, as long as it's the right price and as long as the wages aren't going to be astronomical, I'd be okay with that. But, as a long-term sort of strategy, in terms of seasoning the side, I'd prefer we continue the business model. But, you mentioned Jordan Rhodes. I don't see that as happening. Now, Johnny Russell, I mentioned the fact that, Johnny Russell sort of fits the profile of some players that we already have, so it's almost like surplus, where we might not need it. Don't get me wrong, absolutely cracking player, fantastic, and one for the future. But, when we're dealing with a limited budget, that just wouldn't be my first priority. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be unhappy if we signed Johnny Russell. He is a good player. He's only going to get better. But to me, he's. I don't mean to be harsh on Anthony Stokes here, but I think he's potentially better than Anthony Stokes. I think he'd be, maybe a good replacement in that sense. But it's not a target man. I suppose it depends what Neil Lennon wants to play. If he wants to just play football, in the sort of style that he has been playing of late, where it's a lot of kind of fairly intricate, short, quick passing, which is good to watch, and it can be very effective. And this really isn't a criticism because he's been doing fantastically well.
Sure.
But you see in any football game, if a team are struggling and whatever they're doing isn't working, it's always good to be able to switch to another type of play, another strategy.
Exactly.
And one of the obvious ones would be sort of more direct, longer balls, looking for somebody to kind of bring the ball down. And that's great. It's certainly something to be looked at. I don't know about Kevin Davies. I had a quick Google to look at his goal scoring record, which really isn't that great, to be honest. But in saying that, that's obviously in the Premier League for Bolton.
Right.
He won't get anywhere near as much service there as he has done, or he would do up here.
Right.
But I don't know whether he would be the answer. I've heard other kind of names banded about, but nothing really that seems massively likely or seems particularly exciting. I think, like you, I'd be quite impressed, and I'd be quite happy if we turned round and went, right, we're signing so and 90% of us have never heard of him. You know, and if they turned out to be good, you know, I'd be pleased with that.
Sure.
But you know, I think at times they try to use Samaras as a target man just because he's one of the taller ones, and you know, we don't have anyone else really, with the exception of somebody like, I don't know, Daryl Murphy. And Sammy, although he's a bit, he's had his doubters over the years, and I must
Myself
admit, at one
included.
stage, yeah, I was one of them as well.
No question.
You know, 2 years ago, before the game at Ibrox, if somebody had said, "Do you want to, you know, if a bid came in, would you sell him?" I would have.
Yes.
Yeah. But now he's an integral part of the side, and he's found a place where he can play. And Lennon has shown a lot of trust in him, and that's great. But it would be nice to have somebody, but whether it's a target man or anyone else, it would be nice to bolster the squad a wee bit. I mean, we've lost, what was it, 12 players or something since last season.
Yep.
I was reading a thing last week saying we'd cut £92,000 a week off the wage bill. That was before Key had left.
Right.
So you've probably cut off about £100,000 a week, maybe a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously some of that is good to, you know, just keep it back. You know, because there will be, whether or not we like to kind of admit it, there will be some financial losses without, you know, the old Rangers. But, you know, this whole thing about Armageddon and stuff's nonsense. But, you know, there's been sensible, and then there's been overcautious. I think Celtic, obviously, in 1994 came very, very, very close to the brink. And I think ever since then, you know, largely they've been kind of more cautious than most football boards would be. And I think maybe the whole thing with Rangers has kind of brought it home, or brought it a bit closer to home again. But, you know, we're one of the best financially run clubs in Britain. You know, we can afford to take, you know, sensible, calculated risks and not jeopardise the future of the club at all. You know, if we had a chief executive who was going out and spending insane amounts of money that we couldn't afford, I think the fans wouldn't be happy with that. You know, they go, "This is ridiculous."
No,
but,
and
you know,
I would be too.
There's a common sense medium. Everyone obviously will disagree as to what that medium is, but I think, you know, we could spend a few million without going nuts. We obviously have to keep in mind we have spent $2 million already this summer on securing Foster. But I think, you know, you could spend 2, 3, 4 million and, you know, we wouldn't really miss it that much. And, you know, with Champions League qualification and stuff, you know, you're virtually paying for it. So, you know, be sensible, strengthen a little bit. Don't go nuts, but equally well, don't be overcautious and just think, oh, well, we're not going to really do anything ridiculous in Europe, and we've got a squad that's good enough to win the SPL anyway, so let's not strengthen, because then you're stagnating, and that's a bad place to be in the long term.
No, I agree, and you know, we also have not just from the point of view of what we're seeing on the pitch, but also stagnating sentiment amongst the support. You know, I mean, there's I don't buy into all this you know, Radio Clyde and, you know, the Sun and you know, Mark Guidi and Keevans and the Daily Record and Trainer. I don't buy into this Armageddon thing, but I do sense that, like you said, if there aren't purchases made, there's going to be a sense of apathy that's going to sort of warm over. Yes, Champions League football would, and I want to emphasize, would, if we do qualify for the Champions League, obviously bolster the support. It would bring back those magical European nights back to Celtic Park again, you know, welcoming the likes of Real Madrid. You know, we want revenge from Philadelphia against them. And, you know, like Barcelona or Munich or, you know, one of the Manchester mobs. The magical European nights are going to come back. That's going to obviously invigorate the Celtic support. But, I mean, if not just, and again, you know, we don't need a huge high-profile name, but something that shows some ambition from the board that's going to really invigorate the support, get the support talking, get that buzz going. And I agree completely. It's not going to take a lot of money, maybe 3, maybe 4 million for a couple of players, maybe bring in a selective Bosman, or even, yes, even a loan deal. You know, that could be an evaluate, try before you buy sort of theme. I like that mindset. I would take that back and agree.
I mean, one thing that we should actually keep in mind is and this is obviously a decision that the club have taken, and that's fine, and I think we'll all be quite happy with it. But over the next couple of years, they are going to be, largely redeveloping the area in front of the ground. I mean, that became public, about 10 days ago or whatever it was, when they put the planning permission plans in, and that's going to cost. You've got to think it's going to cost a few million, nothing nuts, but to demolish the school, to demolish the superstore, the ticket office, and then build obviously a new kind of building for the museum and the tickets and everything else, and the store, and put up all these kind of busts and stuff. It's going to cost a bit of money.
Is Celtic on the hook for that? I didn't think Celtic was going to have to pay for a lot of the Commonwealth Games development. Is that the case?
I don't know if some of it's been subsidised by the government, but I would imagine since a lot of it's private land, and there's no strict need for them to do it, Celtic will need to put money into it, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Because I was under the assumption that Celtic weren't going to have to pick up the tab for that. But if that is indeed the case, then then that's a fair point.
Well, it might well be subsidised, but I'd be pretty stunned if the government were going to pay for us to have a new superstore put up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if they'll pay, for example, things like moving the streets or whatever, because obviously, in the plans you can see Kerrydale streets moving, and being replaced with this thing. I don't know if there's anything there, but I'm fairly sure the club will have to put some money into it. I really can't see the government paying for, however many of these heads or busts they're going to be, and things like us to have a cafeteria in the museum and stuff.
Right. That's a good point.
I don't know if they'll pay, for example, for the demolition of the school or whatever. That might be something, but I don't know. It will certainly look fantastic, but we do need to realise that there will be a wee bit of money going there. But equally well, I'm fairly sure they wouldn't have submitted plans to do it and be making progress towards it if they didn't think they could afford it. So,
yeah, fair point. Frank, what are your thoughts going into Wednesday? Obviously got the result today. Never thought it was going to be easy by any stretch, and in many situations, or I guess in a certain sense, it wasn't easy. But the side that was put out today really did impress. So obviously I'm feeling good about our chances going into Wednesday. I think it's more mental, than anything. We need to keep our heads and stay confident, but also stay hungry. What are your thoughts? What are going to be the keys to this game on Wednesday? Do you go out and park the bus? Do you go out and just follow the plan, as you normally would, and just get after it, try and get that early goal and put them away? What are your thoughts? Are you confident? What do you think?
Well, this might just be the way I like to see Celtic play, but I think, at home with probably 55,000 people there, the Champions League music before it for the first time in years. I was having a think about this. The only player that I thought of in our entire squad who's heard that music before, as a Celtic player, is Samaras.
Yes, Sammy.
The rest of them, they've got a massive incentive to go out and, qualify for the Champions League and get at least six games more in Europe this season. Playing at least 2 games against one of Europe's, really, really elite teams, if not, a couple of them. I think we should go out, be sensible, but go out, try and start brightly, try and get the crowd going, and go for the jugular. I don't think that Celtic. We played well against Helsingborg. We played, better, I think, than we did against Helsinki. I think Helsingborg are a slightly better team than Helsinki, but not that much. Now, obviously, we didn't see the best of them at all, but I didn't think we were in top gear, over there. I just think that, Celtic Park must be quite an intimidating place to go. I wouldn't imagine Helsingborg play in front of 50, 55, however many it's going to be very often, let alone, that number of people on a Champions League night. I think everybody within the club really knows what's at stake, especially since, Europe's a big thing this season because it's, you have to demonstrate that, Scottish football or at least our part of it, is still thriving and well. After the demise of the other, big club in the country. And, I think we'll go through. I think we'll probably win 2 or 3-1. I think it'll be fairly comfortable. But equally, obviously, you have to guard against complacency. You can't just go out and, forget to defend or anything. You have to just be solid, work on it, pass the ball, look for opportunities, and if we get service to the strikers or midfielders breaking into the box, we'll score. And I think we'll win. But I'm generally a pessimist as well, but I think we'll win.
Well, I don't need to go over my record. I'm certainly well represented as a pessimist myself, but I would agree. I think that the mentality has changed. With many of these players, they've grown up right before our eyes. Not just in terms of their capability physically, but also mentally. I think that the mindset is completely different now. We're on the front foot, so to speak, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I can't wait to hear the Champions League music at Celtic Park. It's going to be rocking. I'm expecting it to be sold out. I would certainly hope so. And it's going to be magic. Frank, tell us a little bit about just how are things going with Maley's Boys? You do have a predictor league that's just been out. Tell us a little bit about that, and just generally what's going on with the website.
Yeah, we're still kind of puddling about with our new website that we got going. It was actually just before the summer break, but used the kind of summer break to iron out a lot of the kinks. We're the predictor league thing is obviously just on our forum. Last year we didn't really have the opportunity to offer. We had a good first prize, but other than that was really it. This year we've upped it a wee bit. The first prize for this season's predictor league's £100 in vouchers for a Celtic shop, be that online or the physical shop itself. So that includes folk around the world if they want to get involved. Second prize is a brick with a message of your choice on the outside of the ground. And third prize is a tour of Celtic Park and, the wee kind of museum inside and all that for, a family of 4. So, that's only a few games in, and you can jump from bottom of the league to the top of it in 2 or 3 games if you're lucky. Last season, the guy that won it, I think with about 5 games back, he missed the first 10 or 15 games of the season. But with 5 games back, he just started hitting, scores and first goal scorers right, games and games in a row, and he just pinged straight up to the top and won it. I think him and his family enjoyed their dinner at the ground, by all accounts.
Fantastic.
So really, we're just doing that, and we've got our charity thing for the season, which is Motor Neurone Disease Scotland. So we're just about to kind of launch the big. We've done a couple of wee auctions and stuff, and we've got about £170 so far. But we're going to launch the big kind of CD-ROM or downloadable thing that we're going to do for folk to, it's roughly 5,000 old Celtic images all in one place. None of them are. I've highlighted on the disc and online, and every time I mention it, I have to say that none of them are stolen. They're all freely out there. They're just on thousands of different web pages, and I've sat for hours upon hours putting them all into a folder. So it's everything from kind of stuff from the earliest days of the club up to kind of nowadays, and merchandise and pictures of the fans, and if you're looking for a kind of unique desktop wallpaper or Twitter picture or whatever, it's a pretty fantastic resource, and we're just asking for folk to we're putting it in as a recommended donation, because obviously we're not selling it, so we can't say that you have to give us this much. But for 5,000, over 5,000 pictures actually, for £10 you would get either your download of it all, which we're still sorting out, or a CD-ROM with them all on it, and every single penny, with the exception of any money used on discs or for postage. Other than that, every penny will go to MNT at the end of the year, and we're hoping to kind of get to about £1,000 if possible. And I'm pretty confident we'll get there, considering we're almost at £200 and it's not even the end of August.
That's absolutely brilliant, man. I wish you all the best with that. And, we can find more information by just going to MeliusBoys.com, and all the information is there on the website to get, involved and to, get participating.
Yeah. I'll put the links out after the show, but I'm going to start kind of sending out the discs and making the downloads available probably either. There might be downloads available tomorrow night, but otherwise it'll be Monday. And I'm really just hoping that, I think there's about 20 people so far have said they'll want one. But I'm fairly sure that once the word starts to kind of spread through the support, this is quite good actually. It's the sort of thing, there's nothing to stop people from buying a disc. I'm aware of this because, obviously it's not copyrighted or anything. People could buy a disc and just copy it.
Sure.
And give it to all their pals. That's fair enough. There's nothing I can do about that. And I don't really mind if people copy it. It's more just, it's none of the money's coming to me as any sort of profit. It's just, if for example you buy a disc and 3 of your pals want it, you can copy it and give it to them if you want. Just, get them to chuck some money in if they like, because it's a good thing to do. Obviously, the club have been very good in supporting MNDS over the past few seasons, since obviously Jimmy Johnson sadly died of it. But it's the I'm fairly confident that after the last couple of seasons doing things for kids, the Good Child Foundation and the Kano Foundation and stuff, I wanted to kind of change it up a bit and try and help another part of the community. So that's really what we're trying to do. And anybody who wants to help us at all, whether it's by getting a disc or a download, or I've even had people emailing me and going, I've made this folder of photos that I've been having over the years, and I've sent a couple hundred of them through, or if you've got a photo like you and your pals in Seville or something, feel free to kind of send it in and we'll add it on. And it's really to just try and create something that the support can enjoy, but most importantly, a charitable cause can benefit from.
Fantastic. That's absolutely just extraordinary. Absolute credit to the Celtic family. What you're doing and the efforts that you've made previously. Hopefully you have every bit and even more success with this effort this season. We really appreciate you supporting our show. Really from the beginning. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's been 13 months since we started. Time kind of flies. Time kind of flies. When you're scalping Huns. But I just made that up.
It'll be 5 years before you know it. Honestly, it's an absolute pleasure. You're obviously with anybody who kind of voices opinions and stuff on the internet. You're going to get folk who disagree with you, but it's a fantastic show that I think's thoroughly enjoyed by the vast majority of people who listen to it, and bright future in my mind. See when the technology becomes available, that folk can widely listen to internet radio in their cars. People will be coming back and forth from Celtic Park, or going out to whether it's like Tynecastle or Easter Road or Tannadice every week, and instead of sticking on Clyde or Radio Scotland because they've got no other choice, they'll be putting on folk like you, or other kind of Celtic shows and stuff, and that's where the future lies in my mind. You only need to look at how, for example, fanzines and stuff took off when they were first printed, and although they're still popular, they've had to adapt because obviously a lot of it's quicker because you've got the internet and you've got blogs and you've got forums and stuff.
Yeah.
And the radio and kind of media stuff is just the next natural step in my mind. So when I get internet radio in the car, I know who I'll have on.
Fantastic stuff. Thanks so much for calling in. Thanks for supporting us. It really means a lot. And hopefully we can catch up with you real soon. Hopefully I'll be in touch soon about maybe a trip over sometime this fall. Fingers crossed. But so far so good.
Yeah. Well, if you need a lift from the airport, you know who to call.
Yeah, you'll be the first on my list, pal. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks very much, guys.
All right. Hail.
Hail. Cheers.
Frank from Melly's Boys. Melly'sBoys.com. Please check them out. Doing absolutely fantastic stuff. It's a great website. It's a great resource, like Frank was pointing out there, with all the pictures. And I always love looking at the historical pictures. I mean, not just the stuff from the 30s with the waxed mustaches and all that kind of stuff, but even back to like the 70s with the maybe the broomstick mustaches, like the porn star mustaches. But the long queues, trying to get into the stadium, and the old style turnstiles and so on, and the pictures of the stadium before it got redeveloped. I love that stuff. It just sort of gives you a sense for what the soul, of the club was and is really, and the stadium and the area around there itself. Hopefully I can get over there very, very soon. Tony Cassidy in the chat has another a good point that I do want to mention. Don'tShrink.com. It's Tony Conway, who actually is over here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. He's a bit further west than I am, but want to obviously give him a shout out as well. One of people you can interact with on Twitter. I believe it's at Tony Conway on Twitter, but I can clarify that. But definitely good causes with regard to that. Rev, what do you think? I'm not as angry, which is, I don't know. It's kind of surprising, we're right up against it with regard to the transfer window. The next time we talk, the transfer window will be closed, and it'll be conclusive. I should be like fire and brimstone.
Karate Man brewed on the inside.
You should be. I'm trying to wonder if you're okay over there.
I'm a karate man.
I don't know. I have issues. No question about it. That is for sure. Oh, lovely. I have 1% left on my iPad. Okay. Just a couple more things I wanted to touch on. We had some chat here about Joey Barton. There was a rumor about him coming in. And Rev, I don't know, how much, you sort of know about his background and, the shenanigans that go along with that. There's all sorts of rumors from, the usual Scottish hacks, who are just, in complete breakdown, complete mental, just breakdown. I can't come up with a different term for it over the death of the Huns. People like the way I say Huns. Say Huns, Rev.
Huns.
I think we just made somebody's day. It's just complete fabrications. Joey Barton, please, are you kidding? First off, the wages that he'd be on, never going to happen. We're never going to pay even a percentage of that. First off. Second off, we don't need another midfielder. Third off, the guy is a complete and utter whack job. He's bonkers. Neil Lennon isn't going to invite that sort of thing into our dressing room. That would be like the equivalent of us signing El Hadji Diouf.
Oh, God. He's
a complete nutter. It's not going to happen. Okay? Now, Guidi wants to talk about, Patty McCourt's played his last... Oh, rubbish. Go, have a wank to the Huns in Division 3. Leave us be. The other name that repeatedly gets linked with us is Federico Macheda, who, is Manchester United. Had a loan deal to, I believe it was Sampdoria a couple of years ago. Can't seem to stay fit. Always having ankle issues. Was linked, or actually had a loan spell to QPR last season, I believe. And I'm not sure how effective he was. I'm not sure what sort of impact he might have had. Again, he's injured. And he's probably on big wages. Why are we going to pay big wages to a player who is chronically on the trainer's table? We don't have any room on the trainer's table.
We don't even have a trainer.
We don't even have a trainer.
I'm a karate man.
I'm not a trainer. No, I think we have a trainer, but we don't have a doctor.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah, no doctor. Who needs a doctor? Walk it off. Rub some dirt on it. I don't know, Rev. I don't know what to make of it. Like I said to Frank, though, I hope it's somebody that we never heard of, and you go on YouTube and you're like, as Paul Arkin would say, aye, that'd be right. This guy Ambrose, I'm telling you, F.A. Ambrose, E-F-E, I'm sure somebody from Nigeria is going to call in and say, that's not how you pronounce it. It's F.A. Ambrose. He's playing in Israel just now. I've seen YouTube, clips of him. Seems like, fantastic player. A lot of talent. And, I'd be glad to have that player in. Scott Richards getting in touch in the chat room. Yampy on Twitter. Shout out to him. Got a chance to meet him a couple weeks ago in Philly. And, I have the utmost respect for a man of that size. He is huge. Rev, you have the claws and the fangs and the beautiful bald head, but he is intimidating, isn't he?
A little bit, yeah. I wouldn't be on the wrong end of an argument with him.
But nice guy, nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. He was right down in front at Lincoln Financial Field, and he always loves winding me up on Twitter about the fantastic food that they have in Philadelphia. The food in D.C. is absolutely awful. It's garbage. And I have to eat it. Oof. I always love a trip up to Philadelphia, though. I can bring back, like, the really nice fresh rolls. See my mom. My mom always has some gravy, some red sauce that I can take back. Love it. You can freeze that stuff. It's gorgeous. Rev, what's the latest? What's the latest with you?
Not much. Just,
We identified Jeff Cameron, right?
Yes.
That would be, if he didn't go to Stoke, that would be an excellent look, Peter. Time to step up, Peter.
And you want to talk about, growing the brand in North America.
Couldn't.
I've said it before, I said it again. There's many, many, many U.S. soccer fans who will just pick up a team that has an American on it.
No question. And they'll stick with it because of the story.
Right. I mean, having games on, mostly nationalized TV over here now, that's a big step. I mean,
Fox Soccer.
Fox Soccer Plus, you got to pay
Fox
extra
Soccer
for
Plus.
it. Not available in all markets, but
Upper 90.
Plus, the 7:45 a.m. start doesn't really help, but it's not all games will be that early.
He's making an advancing run, an attacking offensive run into the offensive sector. A lot of hustle down the wing. Oh, God, it's getting silly. I think the coffee's wearing off.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think Barton's rubbish. Frank's asking how I would like the Scottish food. I'm willing to try anything, Let's just deep fry it. See what happens. A deep fried cheesesteak.
I am partial to, and I'll probably mispronounce it, but the four fair pies.
I don't know.
It's like picture an apple turnover, but with ground beef and like onions.
Ooh, lovely. That'd be nice. Let's close it out with a couple. We're going into the last week of the transfer window, okay? And here's my message to Peter Lawwell, and then we'll have some feedback afterward. But here's my message.
You screw up just this much, you'll be flying a cargo plane full of rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong.
Okay, Rev. So, some Americans, potential. Now, obviously, we're looking for a center half. Jeff Cameron, that's a good shout. We were talking to Matt from, I believe it's the Cleveland boys. Cleveland CSC, we got to make a point to get out there. Those boys are mental. But love them to pieces. Talk about, another guy I wouldn't mess with is Big Sean. Great guy. But
with him in the princess hat, come on. Do you see that picture?
Yeah.
I had to open the sunroof. He's so tall and so big that I had to open my sunroof for him to have the hat on.
Oh, it's a good thing my wife was there. She kept me out of trouble. If I wound up out with you guys all night, ooh,
yeah,
it would be carnage. I talked to Matt though about another player, Chad Marshall, who over the past has shown a lot of promise. He's a bit long in the tooth, 28 years old, not having the greatest season just yet. This year, that's not exactly who we want. But another center half, Omar Gonzalez playing for LA Galaxy. Now, yes, he's coming off of an ACL rupture. That's always going to be a debilitating injury. It's going to take a long time to recover from that. But nonetheless, lots of potential and promise from him. I'm not quite sure if he'd be ready right from the get-go. But another young player who's another converted midfielder back into central defender is Amobe Akugo, who plays for the Philadelphia Union. He's been very, very good. He's developed a nice partnership with Carlos Valdez, the Venezuelan international, who the Union just picked up, I think, on a designated player. But they have a nice communication back and forth between them. We saw them featured last night in an absolutely dour snooze fest last night in Philadelphia, Chester, Pennsylvania, PPL Park. 0-0 result against Real Salt Lake, man. But he's formed a nice partnership with Carlos Valdez. Carlos Valdez is I'm absolutely enamored with him. I think that he's fantastic central defender, great instincts, just oozes courage. And Okugo is I don't know if he's really embraced the central defense position, mentally. I know that they've slotted him back there, and he's done really, really well. But you hear him interviewed sometimes, and he's very non-committal about his future there. But I think that's his spot. He's a Charlie Mulgrew type. Where he comes in a certain area, slots in another, and he's really found his place once he gets settled in. And he's young. He's only a couple of years out of college, so another player to keep an eye on. I've mentioned Wondolowski. He's a little old. He's not exactly a target man. In fact, he's not even close to a target man. But he can fulfill that goal scoring American role. And then Breck Shea. I mean, he's a bit of a nutter. He needs to sort of get his career back on the rails, as it were. But the talent is there. I mean, that cannot be denied. Fundamentally, I think that he's a good player. Just he's a bit mental. Any other Americans, Canadians, even Mexicans that we should be looking for in your mind, Rev?
I mean, there's guys, that they're doing well in MLS, but trying to make the transition over that I think would fit in at Celtic. You pretty much covered everybody. I mean, I don't know if there's, I don't pay, a lot of attention over the summer, working and stuff like that, to just general how the league, progress of the league and everything. So I'm sure I'm probably missing a lot of people. I mean, I don't see him moving anyway, but what would you think about Heath Pierce?
Yeah, it's a decent shout. He's with you guys now, isn't he?
Yeah, he came back from Europe, and then he went to, I don't know, where'd he go to? Chivas. Yeah, he was at Chivas USA, and then came over to us.
Yeah, man, upper 90. Now he's playing more of a holder for you guys, right? Or he's not back in central defense.
No, yeah, he's left side of central defense.
Oh, okay. Oh,
bouncing back and forth between left back and central, but but if we've got if Mulgrew has,
we already got one of them.
Yeah, if he's got that locked up, if he's left-footed, if you want to bring in a right-footed defender, he wouldn't fit there.
We need a bald basher. We need an Eastern European bald basher, just giant, 7'4", and loads of pace. We need somebody that's going to call Fraser Forster wee man.
Yeah, really.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. Welcome to Celtic Park. All right, it's getting a bit silly. So 4-2 away to Inverness. I think we'll wrap it up. What do you think, Rev?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for letting me talk this week.
Hey, no problem. No problem at all, man. We might do this again. No, you listen, I need you. I need you to talk. I need your composure and
No, I get it. Last week interviewing Paul. So Paul's going to have, a bit to say, and that was the main, the focal point of the show. So, I'm okay taking a backseat to him, or, if you have another guest on like that.
Listen, your value is never to be diminished.
Well, thank you.
It's immeasurable. And I want everybody to listen to that. All right. Rev, behave yourself this week. It's going to be great on Wednesday. Fox Soccer's picking that game up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be on Fox Soccer, man.
With, who did the game?
Was it Ian Dark?
Well, I meant the pre-halftime.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah, you watched that, right?
I had to.
Oh God, they are awful. People complain about the Scottish, bias and the sort of commentary. You have no idea. If there's YouTube clips of like Fox Soccer's panelist coverage, oh my God, it's awful. Rob Stone, who's probably never kicked a ball in his life, he's just like the pretty face, and he mispronounces everything. I mean, everybody's Oh, it's just awful. And Warren Barton, the former, I think he had a cup of coffee with the England national team once. He played for Newcastle. Oh my God. I mean, he's just clueless. Yeah, well, they got loads of pace there at the back, well organized. Like anytime somebody says well organized, they've just admitted to you that they don't know shit about what they're talking about. Full stop. Yeah, well, they're well organized at the back, loads of pace. Them's that get forwards, needs to get back, track back. Always got a lot of energy, a lot of spirit. It's like, no, you are giving me nothing in terms of insight, nothing. And then you got Eric Winalda, who's like, I like some of the campaigns that he's involved with, including, trying to bring the academy experience to lower income kids. Because as the current situation stands, it's only rich kids that can get into the academy, so I think it's absolutely wrong. And Eric Winalda shouts from the rooftops that it's wrong, so I get that, but his commentary is absolutely atrocious. Scott Brown's starting tonight at right back. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, it's just like completely over the top, and he has no idea what the hell he's talking about. For instance, halftime. Yes, we took our foot off the gas. We have a 1-0. Well, Celtic, I wouldn't be surprised if this finishes up 3-1, because they're just, they've just fallen asleep, and Helsingborg's the better team. So I'm guessing it's going to be a bloodbath in the second half. It's like, yeah, wrong again, douche. Your thoughts?
No, you got it spot on. And, Brian McBride just kind of sitting there. He's kind of a bit clueless too with everything. It's like, come on, there's no one else.
He played the game. Like that's the other thing. These guys play the game, and they're so like. He didn't even understand the away goals rule. Like they said, now the Helsingborg's manager came out and said, they're really going to focus on keeping Celtic off the board. Well, are you surprised by that? And he was like, yeah, I'm a bit surprised that, they would be focusing on just making sure that Celtic don't score. It's like, you don't understand the away goals rule? Like, I know that you played for Fulham, and they didn't even sniff European football while you were there. But you don't get the fact that if they keep the clean sheet, you're good?
I don't know.
To be fair, put me on Fox Soccer!
I'm a
it's confusing for me sometimes, but I don't get paid to do it.
Yeah, well, they should pay you. They should pay me, too.
That's what Frank just said. It should be us on Fox Soccer.
Karate Man rules on the inside.
That's right. Put me on the inside. Put me on Fox Soccer. Give me your seat, Eric Winalda. You suck.
I'd love to have Tony Cassidy's, Tommy Smith with a Y. I'd love to have him.
Put it back in the old onion bag. No, he's good. I kid Tommy. He's good. He's good people, and I like his commentary. He does get a lot.
ESPN, though.
Yeah, he gets a lot of stick for the onion bag thing and all that. But yeah, no, he's good. Another one that I like, and he gets a lot of stick. I don't like Phil Shane, the American. We're seeing a theme here. I don't like Americans. And apparently a lot of my Twitter followers don't like Americans either. But, sorry, I take that personally.
Karate Man bruise on the inside.
A bruise on the inside. And it's not cool to be a jive turkey this close to Thanksgiving. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Tommy Smith, with all the stick and everything. Oh, Ray Hudson, though. Now he's on BN Sport where, it's Al Jazeera Sport and nobody can get it unless you have DirecTV or Dish, and now they have Comcast. And of course I have Verizon, so I can't even get it, the bastards. But he was good. Ray Hudson does, like the La Liga games here. So he does all the Barcelona games. And I mean, it's just like, magisterial. If you're not familiar with Ray Hudson, he's, from Newcastle. So he has that typical Geordie, sort of affect. Like, he's like a squirrel walking across a telegraph wire. It's just like he's always got the an acronym or whatever you call it. the colloquialisms or the analogies, Barcelona stretching the defense apart like spandex. It's like,
who does was that him? Because somebody was telling me, I don't get that channel either, but somebody was telling me about just the crazy Scottish guy that does on that channel. I guess they mean him and they just misunderstood his accent.
Who's this? I don't
know. Last week when I was at the pub before the Red Bulls game, and we had, Barcelona, I think Atletico or something, and they didn't have the sound on, but somebody was like, "Oh, I hope it's this guy announcing, the crazy Scottish guy."
No, that they're talking about Ray Hudson, and he's
Okay.
it's some idiot American who doesn't understand the difference between a Geordie and a Scot, mate.
Yeah, I say I don't get the channel, so I don't I don't know who they have.
Yeah, no, they're talking about Ray Hudson. Yeah, he does
Okay.
all the Barcelona games. He's a Geordie, and for the, I guess the less knowledgeable American, they might think that he's a Scot. My dad heard a Geordie talk one time. He thought he was from the Netherlands. Geordies have it's a very unique accent, but it is. I love it. I love a Geordie accent, mate. Even though I'm doing that hacky East London thing that I always do. Geordies and Scousers. Scousers have a cool accent as well.
It's kind of like their version of the Southern drawl.
Oh, Wayne Rooney, getting in touch. All right, Chris Kuyab always loves when I say let's wrap it up and then we go on for another half hour. So I think we've done that. Rev, thank you as always, and behave yourself. Enjoy the game on Wednesday. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
And thank you to everyone for tuning in as you do every week. Thank you so much for all the support here on Twitter, on the message boards. Shout out from the rooftops. Thanks to Frank from Maley's Boys, as well as Snake, Richard Aiken calling in this week. Snake Plissken from CQN, and Paul Arkin, all the best on his book launch coming up next Saturday. Hopefully we'll be in touch with him again very soon. And that's pretty much it. Rev?
Have a good week.
You too, pal. And we're going out with the Pogues, as always. Thousands are sailing. Thanks for listening. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. We'll talk to you soon.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you? And did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years? Or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know that was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. and a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And then Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favourite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to my empty room, I suppose I must have cried. Thousands are sailing again across the ocean with a hand of opportunity. Just tickets